important. So after every game, we'll come back to this. But just know that like this is a very, very pivotal match for the league.
Yeah, and actually the only person, so Caleb also seems locked based on all these scenarios, and that makes sense because he's 2-1 with probably the best pick in the room.
Caleb's the only other person who is locked, though.
Let's be real here.
I'm just gonna let that slide for now because I know you're still hurting.
But it seems like if Tim's position might also be at risk here.
I think Tim is like the most likely not to make it, but he does have a shot at making it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's get started.
Yeah, let's get started.
I don't know who's on the play yet, but seems like these hands are somewhat decent.
I think they're both keeps.
Yeah, I would. Oh wow, John elects to mulligan.
So what was his hand that he mulled? He had like
Preordain, Omniscience, Force of Will, Lotus Petal, and a bunch of lands.
So I guess he mulliganed because, well, I don't know. I can't think of a good reason to mulligan. Like he won a combo piece, and he did have an Omniscience.
And he had counter magic too.
So I would have kept that.
Okay.
And now he's on 5, and he's definitely keeping this.
All right. Well, this 5 is definitely better than the 6 he had.
Yeah. Look at how awkward this is. I mean, is he bottoming a show and tell? I would keep it on top still because
that's a cunning wish.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say like, yeah, you need a land, but you also need a show and tell.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's a cunning wish. My bad. Looks like he's on the draw.
Yes. Our playing Grixis control is going to lead with turn 1 Inquisition of Cosmic. Probably going to take one of the 2 legal targets in his hand that happen to be the same card, Preordain.
Wow, great analysis.
Yeah,
That's why they got us on. Okay.
And obviously the worst thing that can happen to you when you're on a mulligan to 5 is when your opponent discards and takes like the best card in your hand. That being said,
that was a good top deck.
Yeah, that was a really good top deck.
So he's looking for a land, obviously. Looks like he might be able to go for the show until next turn. And it looks like Robert's going to be forced. Let's see if Robert is able to hit a land. Okay, he hits a land, but he also locks himself in the process. He gets to play the Baleful Strix next.
Yes, so rather than this being like a 2-turn stall, the Baleful Strix is going to speed that up by 1. That being said, I wonder, I guess you're priced into playing the Baleful Strix, right? Because you don't want to, I mean, the best case scenario would be if Robert had drawn another blue card, then he could pitch the Baleful Strix to 1 Force of Will and just like, waited it out. But
yeah, I mean, Baleful Strix isn't good here, but it's basically cycling, and then you get a 1/1 body.
Yeah, you just so badly need to develop your mana, and if you get that Liliana on the table, that's actually pretty good.
A Liliana on a multi-5 is insane.
Yeah.
All right, so John doesn't have too many options, so he's gonna go for it here. Robert's gonna force, so we'll see what he pitches here.
It has to be the other force, right?
I think it should be,
because otherwise you're drawing two
dead cards. Exactly.
Yeah.
And he just wants to get the Liliana out as soon as possible.
Agreed. I mean, on the upside, well, is John playing like intuition or anything like that? I doubt it. But I mean, John still has to draw another mana source and the second show and tell, which I think is highly unlikely, considering that he's only 10 cards.
Robert has a lot of time, basically.
Yeah.
To find that third mana for Liliana. And once he does find the Liliana, the gears are going to start turning.
Yeah. I mean, Liliana resolving and ticking up is probably going to, seal the deal here. The question is, do we actually get to that point?
Yeah, the problem for John is because every turn he needs to discard a card, it's going to be hard for him to assemble 3 mana, Show and Tell, and Emrakul.
Right.
Yeah, so there's almost no way that he's going to be able to get the Omniscience. And actually, Emrakul doesn't do anything with Liliana out. So if he gets the Liliana out, he's going to be forced to try and get an Omniscience into play and try to top deck an Emrakul.
Yep.
So it's...
Yeah, I mean...
the game's almost over. Ooh, that's a great draw.
Okay, that's pretty good.
And then... Okay, so the next card they don't know about, though. So...
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was pretty tragic. I mean, like we were talking about earlier in an earlier match, Robert's deck, it falls under the I guess the classic control issue, game 1 at least, where you've got half of your deck that's good against a certain subset of the field, and the other half of the deck which is good against the other subset of the field. And the problem is when you draw the wrong half at the wrong time, like that's just the easiest way to lose game 1s.
Yeah, and things have worked well for Robert so far. They've pretty much gone swimmingly. That's actually a pretty
the Wasteland was a pretty good draw.
Yeah, things have gone well,
Hmm.
and he is favored here, but as you can still see, he still has 3 dead cards in his hand.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that
So
we're saying that Robert's favored, despite the fact that John's on like a 8 turn clock. You know what I mean? Like,
right,
it's not unfathomable that John strings like the perfect cantrip sequence into
exactly.
like a spell pierce even should be fine to protect him from that counter spell.
Hmm. Yeah, if you were playing Delver, I'd say John would be pretty dead, but
Oh
he
yeah,
has Baleful Strix,
yeah.
so John's got a shot.
This is it. This is the bird team. Squaw! But yeah, so let's see. If we're both players' positions, I guess Robert's not likely to draw the third copy of Force of Will, right? Like that seems.
Well, he just needs to draw another. He can't cast any of the 5 spells in his hand. So a show and tell off the top would win John this game. So it would just be over that quickly.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty crazy, right? This is on a mulligan to 5 too. Ooh,
Ooh, that's good.
that's really
So the
good.
question is if he casts it now or he waits. And looks like he's waiting, and I think this is game. I think this is just game.
Wait, is there any comp? No, well, wait. He's got 47 cards left in deck, so he has to be able to
Yeah, and
go through his
it's not
entire
like
deck.
Robert can bolt him or anything. So
Jeez,
Limdul's Vault doing its best slow demonic tutor impression, and it looks like it's going to get there.
that's crazy.
He did more or less draw perfectly.
Hmm.
But I mean, like we were saying, like it was, he definitely had a shot in this game.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. I mean, like, but you saw like Robert's hand too. It was so good. It was double Force of Will and the Baleful Strix, and then that brainstorm was just like tragic.
I mean, it's pretty sad that he drew 6 cards that he couldn't cast. Even if he had the Liliana, it wouldn't have done anything.
Well, he did draw into the Wasteland, but the Thoughtseize
All right,
was
so
just
he
like
finds the show and tell. So this is going to be good enough to keep. He's probably going to leave the preordain and the brainstorm in case the show and tell gets countered, but we
Mhm.
know it's not going to, so we know they're going to be shuffling up. Do you want to pull up deck lists?
Sure. Actually, I mean, before we actually even conclude that this game is over, there's also the question of whether John actually goes for it, because you have to understand Robert's still sitting with 6 cards in his hand, and we're laughing about it because we have the full 2020 vision, but it's not necessarily like
Yeah, he's going for
okay,
it.
all right, just
So the reason to go for it is like it doesn't get any better for you, and it could get better for Robert. Like you
okay.
can tell he's color screwed. You know he plays counterspell, and he does happen to have the counterspell.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna look at lists right now. My guess is it gets a lot better for Robert post sideboard.
Or are we looking at Group B? So I'll give you. So,
So John's playing a Cunning Wish deck.
so just like he has a wish board, so you're not missing anything. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
Well, let's talk about Robert's sideboarding then.
Sure. All right, so they're sideboarding now. So it looks like he's taking out his bolts. He's taking out his like dead removal.
Yeah, all
and
those
he's
cards that we
bringing in
saw
his
on the
counter
screen.
spells. So looks like he has Pyroblast, Inquisition,
Surgical
Fluster
Extraction.
Storm, Thoughtseize, Surgical Extraction. So it looks like those discard spells and counter spells are going to come in,
Yeah.
and his dead removal spells are going to go out. Whereas John, you can see on screen, he has a wish board, so he doesn't really have a sideboard.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best that
He can bring in 3 Fluster Storms, and I think that's it.
Massacre is.
So John gets to convert some of his extra cantrips into counter magic, and Robert gets to highly upgrade his counterspell suite.
Yeah, I mean the other cards of note. There's a Toxic Deluge. That's a sorcery that Cunning Wish can't get. There's a Massacre, so it's basically board wipes. But I don't even know if John wants these removal spells in this matchup because it's not like the clock is actually relevant.
Yeah, the clock's not what matters. What matters is at some point Robert's going to have a hand of too many counter spells for John to fight through.
Exactly, yeah. And I think I agree with you in terms of the other sideboarding. Let's see. Yeah, Flusterstorm is an auto include, Pyroblast an auto include, Thoughtseize an auto include. So then the question is, do you bring in the one Surgical Extraction? Do you bring in?
I think Surgical is better than Lightning Bolt, so I would probably bring it in.
Okay, and then what about the one copy of Kolaghan's Command in the sideboard?
It's probably also better than Lightning Bolt.
Okay. So we're looking
just
at
for
four
just for the
push.
discard a card ability. So
Yeah.
if you have it in conjunction with Liliana, it could put them to locked.
Yeah.
So
I mean, in all honesty, like that's 9 cards we just mentioned in the sideboard, and there's like 8 cards that he could bring out. So there's maybe like a land too can come out from Robert's side. But yeah, really quickly, let's talk about the giant growing image or the image that grew on the screen. I guess this is the second raffle. So do we go ahead and start that right now? Yeah.
so it looks like they already did it.
Uh, Woo,
Yeah.
nice.
Good job.
Oh, glad that the mic is modding us here. Sorry, I actually muted my thing. That's why I couldn't hear. I should probably do that. Okay. Anyways, yeah. So Robert's going to be on the play for game 1, and he's taken a mulligan to 6. Ooh, and it seems like John
It's a
is
pretty weak 6.
yeah, but
John's
hand's
7
really good.
is solid.
Yeah, I mean not really really good. Really really good is like pedal pedal pedal, forcible backup, show and tell,
Sure.
Emrakul, whatever. But yeah, I mean this the
By the
6
way, who would be upset if Show and Tell left the format? I'm not saying it's a good deck, but who would be upset though? Who would be upset if it got banned?
Good question. Good question. Um. Okay, Thoughtseize is a good start here.
Thoughtseize and Surgical too.
Yeah, what's interesting is that John did not decide to lead with his own Thoughtseize, so I'm guessing he's saving it for like close to the quote combo turn,
Exactly.
so that he can sort of bottleneck mana or prevent further draw steps. Perfect information basically.
And it actually did work out for him here because if he cast Thoughtseize, he likely would have taken. I guess he could have taken the Thoughtseize. But here he gets the Brainstorm in response.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's interesting. I mean, even if John doesn't brainstorm in response, which I'm not really a huge fan of. What do you have to take like a force? Well, taking a brainstorm doesn't do much. Well, I mean, it's not that it does much, but like.
Yeah, I think it could be okay to let it resolve. The kicker though is if he like tries to go for if he takes brainstorm and then tries to go for an end step fetch, then Robert can take that opportunity to surgical as brainstorm.
True. That's actually really important to know because John's situation here, mana-wise, not really good. To get blue mana, he has to crack the polluted delta. And so I wonder if even in response to the Thoughtseize, he should have fetched away just to get something.
It depends if his plan is to cast brainstorm or not.
Okay. Well, Robert's going to go ahead and take the force of will here.
Okay.
And I think he's going to aggressively surgical. Okay.
Okay, so that's interesting. I would have waited until he fetched a surgical just so that we could guarantee that we could take the other force.
Yep.
And if he doesn't fetch, like I think it was pretty likely that he was going to fetch, if not during the end step, definitely during his main phase. And even if he doesn't, then you're okay just sitting there. If he never fetches, he always has a force of will in his hand. So that's an okay situation to be in as well.
Right. The worst case scenario is if like John draws like 2 more force of wills, and then, but then at that point you're like, okay.
Yeah. So he's definitely gonna let it resolve. He's gonna get to shuffle a free shuffle out of this as well. So Robert's actually down a card.
Yep.
So that's why I actually like surgical extraction is good in 2 situations against show and tell. It's good when you can extract all their show and tells, and it's good when you can get a card out of their hand. So in this situation, he did neither. So he got rid of all the force of wills from his deck, which isn't horrible, but it's probably not worth a card either.
I think at some point it's worth a card, but that point could also just be like later into the game. You know, when you like
where you should have had it locked up anyways.
Well, just like maybe on like the critical term, you start with like your opponent goes show and tell, all right, and your first action is surgical your force of wills. You know what's next, and so now we deck access to deck lists is public. We know how they've sideboarded, or we can guess how Robert has sideboarded. We kind of missed it, right? Well, there was nothing to miss. Never mind.
You mean John?
No. Oh yeah. Robert's
Robert we saw.
Sorry, John. We just know there's like a couple Flusterstorms now in John's deck probably. But the good news is for Robert, and I have to imagine now with all the Force of Wills gone, this Jason the Mind Sculptor probably gonna hit the board.
So this is interesting. John brought in surgical.
Ooh, okay.
So you can give Robert a little taste of his own medicine.
Yeah. Ooh, I like this. Yeah. Now, that's interesting though. But if you're in John's position, what do you even want a surgical?
Uh, I'm not sure. I guess counter spells.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, like I'd rather focus on just building an impenetrable or like the ultimate,
Well, I think in a weird way, like John's the beatdown in this matchup. He just needs to find a hole and then punch through that hole with one spell, and then he wins.
Okay.
So surgical doesn't really help him. Like it can help him if he hits a counter spell, but I don't really like bringing it in here.
Mm-hmm. So if you are in, oh god, this is so tragic. He also doesn't have the fourth land drop again. I mean, granted, he was on a mulligan, so things aren't going to go as perfectly or smoothly as they should.
He also can't cast the Liliana.
Yeah.
Nice mana base.
Jeez. So what do you hide here?
Looks like he's hiding the Flusterstorm and the Baleful Strix, so he's going to cast the Baleful Strix next turn.
Okay, makes sense. I mean,
that does leave shields down for one turn.
Right.
But he has seen John's hand, but I guess so John's hand was actually pretty scary given the amount of cantrips within it, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, well, okay, so for shields down, we're talking about John has to draw absurdly well, right? He not only has to hit the show and tell.
Right?
Well, the show and tell is not even that scary, assuming that Robert can find a source.
Source? Yeah, but he only gets one turn.
True, because he's going to play the Baleful Strix, draw the Flusterstorm, and then he has to draw the land off the top there.
Right, exactly.
Okay. So, but like what I'm trying to get at is that like if John has one turn to do it, in theory, if luck is equal, Robert's going to find it, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you play the Baleful Strix because if you hold the Flusterstorm up, Omnitel can't do anything other than having their own Flusterstorm and having you tap low. So it's possible he just holds Flusterstorm up forever.
Yeah.
Then again, I don't hate casting the Baleful Strix because that it's if you're gonna cast it, it's a decently safe window.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see what he does. He sees a bunch more cantrips.
Okay.
I think you keep it if you think you'll have time to, dig. I think you shuffle if you think you need to find it really quickly.
Agreed. And I think in this situation, I like the way John has sequenced it. He's kept the Omniscience on top of his deck, so it's immune to a discard spell.
So what do you think of this play, Surgicaling, because he hit his good cards?
Right.
So
that's actually very aggressive.
That's really interesting. I think he should have, because of Surgical Extraction, I guess he should have kept his good cards. But what was more likely? Did John play a land already? He did.
John has not played a land yet, I don't think.
Oh, he hasn't? Okay, in that case, I had a card against Thoughtseize.
No, never mind. Sorry, this is his turn too. There are 2 lands in play, yeah.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't really think to play around Surgical, but he could have.
Yeah.
And given that he couldn't play Thoughtseize, then I guess it was technically correct. But yeah, we'll see. He's no longer locked anymore, so honestly, the Surgical wasn't even the end of the world for him.
Yeah, and
he gets to play Jace next turn.
Exactly. Yeah, I think
this has actually worked out for Robert in a way, which is kind of unexpected. Which again, it shows why Surgical is a horrible Magic card. Both Honorog and I hate it, but
yeah, I don't know. It's pretty crazy because in all honesty, yeah, you're right. Robert didn't want those two. Like, I think Robert's priority is either to have counter magic that he can cast, which he couldn't given the Baleful Strix, and then the second thing is he wants land so he can actually cast his spells, and that Surgical just happened to. I mean, yeah, it shuffled the deck. Yeah, I got rid of Brainstorms, but as far as I remember, Jace is Jace
has a lot of Brainstorms.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And Jace has protection against Emrakul as well.
Right.
So it's gonna force John to need to find, Emrakul Omniscience, which he has. He shuffled. That's kind of cool. I didn't even know that little action thing could come up.
Yeah, good to know. And I think what we saw was Ponder, Omniscience, and like another blue spell, maybe another cantrip. I think in that situation, I'm comfortable with shuffling there because really, like, you just want to find that show and tell so you can end the game. You already have another Brainstorm in your hand, and that Brainstorm is likely to find at least one other cantrip to keep it going. Maybe not necessarily 2, but.
What do you think of playing Jace here? I'm actually kind of torn.
It's really hard to say. So the question is, you also have to wonder about at what point of time do I start winning the game? And if you're bent on holding up counterspell for the rest of the game, are you actually going to have to wait until you draw 2 more lands? Like that's 2 whole turns that John is going to spend sculpting his hand, finding the perfect answer. So I understand it, but we also need to know we like when you play this, you admit there is risk, and
Mm-hmm.
you can get blown out on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't if you make this play, you cannot get upset if John rips show and tell
Okay.
right now and kills
I think
you.
I probably would have made that play. I
Mm-hmm.
probably would have brainstormed. Um, what would you have done? Would you have held up Counterspell? Would you have played Jason Fate Seal or played Jason Brainstorm?
I think I would have Jason. I think I would have brainstormed. Fate Seal is okay, but in the grand scheme of things, the reason that you're Fate Sealing is probably so that you just don't die on the spot. Ooh, and then this is really good too, right? The Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, he's in a good spot. He can Snapcast or Thoughtseize. Brainstorm, try to hit a land first.
Oh, but he's going upstairs. What? Now that's crazy. In this situation, I think I would, for sure, I would brainstorm.
Yeah, because if you hit another land, you get Snapcaster, Thoughtseize, Counterspell. Um, Basically, the theory is once you have enough in one for ones in your hand with a Jace out, they can't win.
Yep.
So there's no reason to need to like race and go up stairs with Jace.
Right. So what do you think this Cunning Wish is going to grab now? Is probably. Do you think it might?
Does he have a way to find show and tell?
I don't think so. He could, if he boarded out a copy of Limdol's Vault, he could probably
Does
find
he
that.
have an answer to Jace?
Not in blue black. Good question. Let's see what he ends up getting. Oh, we could just look at his sideboard right now. Duh. All right, so there's an Echoing Truth, Eladamri's Call, Firemind's Foresight.
I don't think any of these do that much.
Does Noxious Revival get anything relevant? No. Deluge, Trick Mind, Wipe Away. So I have to. Yeah, I'm not really sure what you even Cunning Wish for here.
Like, yeah, I don't know. He doesn't have Intuition. I don't even know if I would want to play Intuition. Intuition would play right into Snapcaster Surgical.
Yeah.
So, we'll see what he gets.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. So I wanna
maybe he sided out a Limdual's Vault. That would be a pretty good target.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, you side out one Limdual's Vault, bring in like the Fluster Storms or whatever you want, counter magic wise, and then just cast Limdual's Vault and go hard.
Okay,
but
so Robert decides to go for the counterspell here.
Yeah, and I wonder, because deck lists are public, if this is the best idea or not. In theory, there might still be one copy of Flusterstorm left in John's sideboard.
Mm-hmm.
So
he's punished really hard if he finds the show and tell here.
Yeah. And by really hard, do you mean the game's just over?
Yeah, that's relatively hard.
Oh, wow.
It's a lot of lands.
That's tragic.
He's marching towards that omniscience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's actually, Mike, the way it's set up right now is that you're feeding into my mic because we're not wearing headphones since we're sharing here. So, but yeah, no, Mike is right. That would be just like the ultimate punt. So now, given how Robert has been fate sealing, despite okay, yeah, given how Robert has been fate sealing, do you think he does it again?
So it looks like he's going for Thoughtseize and then deciding after that.
Okay. All right.
So he's probably going to Thoughtseize the Omniscience, because Emrakul doesn't really do anything by itself. And then we'll see what he does.
Okay. And that's interesting, the way that so like basically because of the basic lands in his deck, I think he's forced to play the Swamp first almost before Thoughtseizing, because if he Thoughtseizes first, he either taps down his red or his blue. And both could be relevant, in case he needs to brainstorm and finds like maybe like a Pyroblast or finds like a Flusterstorm that he needs to cast.
Yeah.
So Thoughtseize, what would you take here? Okay. Well, that answers what he takes.
Ooh, I'm just reading the chat. Mr. Huang is looking quite fresh this evening. Quite the contrast between him and Honorog. Hey, you can't ban him.
I'm not banning him. I'm not banning him. Look, I didn't have time to do my hair, okay? It was like 4:56, and then Mike messaged me, and he's like, hey, you there? And I was like, shit, can I get a few minutes? And then...
so he actually took the Emrakul.
Yeah, and I like that. I don't know. Actually, maybe I don't like that. Okay, I definitely see the upside of it. The upside is with just an Omniscience and Show and Tell, you can't really do much, right? You have to wait a couple turns. But then on the flip side,
but Emrakul doesn't do anything
Yeah.
though. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Emrakul doesn't do anything because you could just balance it with Jace.
All right, so it looks like you found a Limduel's Vault, so you can go for Show and Tell into Omniscience next turn
Okay.
if he keeps it. Or he can go for Limduel's Vault this turn because he draws it off the Preordain.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, he can maybe hope to top deck a cantrip to continue the chain.
Yeah, no, this is interesting though. If you're in John's position, you know that Robert has been aggressively fate sealing. Do you think?
So you're almost on like a Fate Seal clock.
Yeah, well, the Fate Seal clock is there, but if when you cast, so he's gonna wait to cast the Limdo's Vault, which solves the question I was asking. But you know, it's possible that Jace meddles with the way the Limdo's Vault is set up. So
well, that's why you can, you know, cast it during the end step.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, the downside is that you know, what is the downside of? Oh yeah, that, you know, Robert draws like a Force of Will or something to stop that. To stop the Limdo's Vault.
Julian, that's not true. If I were playing, like, say, you know, a Deathrite Shaman deck, I would still play Perish just to beat you.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that the other day. I was like, I'm gonna register. No, this was before. So when the ban list came out, we had to change our pods because otherwise we'd severely metagame against each other. And I was like, I'm gonna have 4 Perish in my sideboard, and then
just 4 Perish main deck. Get him.
And Mike was just like,
I'm probably gonna play Deathrite Shaman, so he kills Deathrite Shaman.
Mike was like, yeah, but then Julian's not gonna bring elves, and then I was like, kicker, I'm playing elves. Got him.
Perish elves.
Hell yeah.
What synergies do you have with Perish?
You send stuff into the graveyard and then cast a Scavenging Ooze.
Ooh,
there we go. Yeah.
You don't even need to change your deck up for that one.
There we go. Nice Eldrazi, because that's what you'd play, right?
Yeah, I think Robert's tanking pretty hard on if he wants to Brainstorm or Fate Seal.
Mm-hmm.
Every prior turn, he's had like one piece of interaction-ish.
Yeah.
And this turn he doesn't, so he's going for the Brainstorm.
Okay, and I definitely like this play.
Yeah, I would, you know, I think he should have been brainstorming the whole time, but
Yes.
even here, it's still correct to brainstorm despite being close.
Very nice. Okay.
Okay, so that's good. So he gets to hold up Force of Will and then Painful Truth next turn.
Yep. So what's interesting is that I mean, obviously you don't fire off the Wasteland now because you need to have 5 mana. Well, if you see Painful Truth,
the Wasteland like
is tricky.
The mana doesn't really do anything for John at this point, having access to.
Well, maybe it might be relevant for 5. Like Flusterstorm, some math, like if you draw Brainstorm and you need to increase the storm count by 1. This for Wastelanding now, not now, but Wastelanding would help a little bit. The reason that I'm skeptical about the Painful Truths is that while it is good, you have to draw a blue card for the Force of Will because then you're giving up your option, right? Whereas you're going to be drawing cards off the Jace anyways, so maybe it makes sense to play the land, fetch those 2 cards away,
find a blue card, and then cast Painful Truths.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I like that. So he's actually forcing the Limduel's Vault here.
Okay.
Limduel's Vault has been great, just eating up counterspells left and right.
Yeah, and Bob and I were discussing this, and we're not so in one. On one side of the argument, you know, you're like Limdo's Vault it's card disadvantage, so that's why, you know, like you don't want to counter it as a control player because you want to always maintain that 1-to-1 ratio or have, you know, X+1 counters where X is the number of cards in their hand. But then on the other side is like they could just Limdo's Vault into like you know, the nuts, and then just, you know, all your counter spells are like for what purpose, you know? Mm-hmm. Like if you die with a bunch of counterspells in your hand, you probably feel pretty silly because there are spells you could have definitely countered, whether it's even like a cantrip or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually another really good thing. I like that aggressive Force of Will there means that he is free to cast the Painful Truths on the following turn.
Okay, that makes sense. He didn't find anything good with the Painful Truth, so he had to Brainstorm again. And those are some good 3 spells right there.
There we go.
I think the game's over now.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Mostly on the back of the Pyroblast.
Yeah. I mean, the Inquisition's going to be unfortunate because...
It's kind of a whiff.
Well, it's a whiff, but like... the information I think is pretty important.
Yeah.
Robert gets to know like that he's just in such like a really good position. So
It looks like he's actually shuffling away the Inquisition.
okay.
So he might be casting Strix.
Sounds
and
good.
then holding up Pyroblast.
So Strix, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, beat down to 10. Okay,
Yeah,
so it's
and
not
actually, yeah, I do like shuffling with the Inquisition because there's no card that John would have that he wouldn't have cast.
Okay.
So.
So does that mean that John's not playing cards? Wait, no, John is playing Preordain and stuff like that, right?
Well, he found the show and tell, and it's gonna need a Pyroblast. So Cunning Wish can only get instance.
Yep.
So my guess is he was gonna get Limdul's Vault, and it does look like he sided one out.
Yeah, there is one copy of Limdul's Vault in the sideboard, and I think that's pretty smart post board. You know, just to be able to. I mean, like when you have Wish, and sometimes if you have just like a strictly like a utility Wish box, with nothing to do in the downtime. So, for example, if I was playing a control deck and I only had like answers to creatures or counter spells or whatever, you know, there are certain situations when there's nothing going on that my my Wish would not be good. Whereas if I had like a copy of Fact or Fiction, if we're just durdling and doing nothing, yeah, sure, I'll wish and I'll draw a bunch of cards, similar to wishing for Limdul's Vault and just setting up an unlosable pile.
All right. So this is for all the marbles.
This is true. This is game 3, match 6 of group 2. So the winner of this match makes it in, right?
And Robert's already made it in with 1 win.
Okay,
is that right? Or John has already made it in with 1 win?
Okay, yeah. So because Robert can only win 2-1, so John would have only been knocked out if he'd lost 0-2.
So if Robert wins, he's first, and if he loses, he is last. So Robert's playing to be first or last.
Okay.
And John is playing to be second or third.
Yeah. Okay.
So Robert's got way more on the line.
All right, Robert, this is your winning in. Best of luck to both players. It seems like. What did I miss? Did John Mulligan? No, he's casting a Thoughtseize. Okay, that's his Thoughtseize. All right. Yep. No, but it seems like Robert Mulligan. Oh my.
Correct.
Okay.
So he kept a 1-lander, which is fine.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the thing with John's hand is it's not necessarily the best 7-card hand you can have, but at the same time, I wonder if you can actually afford to mulligan a hand that has early interaction and like half your combo.
Yeah, and it looks like, yeah, I think Robert's deck is just not really set up well to fight combo. He has some good counterspells post board, but he honestly just doesn't have that much. Like he still has to leave in Baleful Strix and yeah. Ooh. Okay. So he found Show and Tell, Cunning Wish, Forcible Backup. I think that should be enough, because even if Robert draws Pyroblast or draws a red source for Pyroblast, the Forcible can answer that. So I think. Yeah. I think he's out.
There's one caveat.
And that's the advantage of playing a deck like Show and Tell.
Yeah. There's one caveat, and that's that John needs to hit a 3rd mana source. Oh, he has it.
Yeah, he has it.
Oh my. Okay. Never mind. No, he doesn't have it.
Is it not on top of his library?
No, there was a Show and Tell and a Preordain. He bought him the Preordain. Or he bought him the Cantrip, whatever that was.
Oh, did he bottom it or just
what?
Did he bottom it, or he could have also just left it on top?
Okay. Yeah,
but we will see what he did. Oh, he did All right, well, there you go. That's how you play Magic.
Never mind. Straight off the top, like a god, like a master.
All right, so we're gonna Cunning Wish for Eladamri's Call, or I guess you Cunning Wish for Firemind's Foresight, and then you get another Cunning Wish, which eventually gets Eladamri's Call, which gets Emrakul.
Yeah.
So we'll see if he goes through with the full chain. My guess is he does, because he might as well. But either way, we're going to see a hasty Emrakul, and Robert's going to be packing it up.
Well, technically, it's not hasty, Bob. It attacks on its 2nd turn when it's not summoning sick.
I don't know. An Emrakul that hits me before I get to do anything, it's pretty hasty. All right, it looks like he's just like, all right, I know I got this. Not going to bother showboating.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate, John. It's getting pretty late for Julian as well, so I'm sure he appreciates it too.
Okay, so Looks like John's gonna win this match 2-1.
All right, so let's pull up the final standings. We'll have the final standings on screen shortly, but let's read them out.
Yeah, so John wins 2-1, which means that the first seed is Caleb.
He advances directly to the quarterfinals, has a bye for the wild card round, and John is going to be on the play for the wild card round with Omnitel, and Tim is going to be on the draw for the wild card round with Checkpile.
Dude, I'm chroming out.
And Caleb won with Miracles! He won with Miracles! You can still play Terminus!
Take that!
Oh my god!
So, in theory, if this deck actually still remains good, does that mean that...
That means top was the correct ban.
Wait, no, that means top wasn't the correct ban.
What do you mean?
Because if it's still winning...
Well, yeah,
with
it's okay to be winning. It's just not okay to be, like, way better than everything else.
Oh, okay, fine. Fine.
But let's talk about this. Terminus was sided out all 3 matchups, so it was kind of not a very good showing. So it was more of a showing of how blue-white control is still viable, rather than how Miracles is still viable. But what do you think? Do you think Terminus is still viable, or do you think Verdict or EE or what have you is better?
Playing 4 Terminus right now just seems like such a bad idea. And I'm not trying to, punch at anyone who wants to, try it or whatever it is. Ooh, wow. 41% said that Tim would win. Very, very nice. Well, it seems... Okay, yeah, so Caleb in first, John in second, Tim in third, and then Robert in fourth. Okay. Yeah, but regarding Terminus, it's just like the reason that it was good was because A, you could cast it on their turn. B, like you could keep it set. You could set it up and keep it set up with top.
Right. Whereas now you're like kind of priced into like if you know it's on top, you can manage the game so that it'll be good, but you don't have any options really as to when it's going to be cast.
Right. And I think
so you're basically saying you don't like Terminus, you'd rather play another sweeper.
Yeah. I think the all-stars in this matchups, like what I've noticed today, and this is something that I've noticed in the past week, blue just has some really absurd cards. Like Jace the Mind Sculptor is still the best 4-mana card in my opinion in Legacy. And if you resolve one and you can keep it alive for a bunch of turns, it's really good.
It's still a recipe for success, and it has been since it's printed in 2011. Yeah, I agree.
And I mean, Counterspell was just really good as like a nice control option. The one caveat that I have, and this goes back to what you're saying, is that Terminus was boarded out in all the matches, or well, it wasn't boarded out in all copies. I think versus. Did he board it out against Tim?
I think I saw him boarded out. But
I saw one copy in the sideboard, but I don't know how many. The point that I'm trying to say is that look at the matches that we've played against. Though Caleb played against another control deck that had like a few creatures. What else did he played against? Bug Omnitel, which has no creatures, and then he played against the Grixis control deck, which again creatures are not good against. Terminus is not really that good against like Snapcaster Mage and Baleful Strix. So what I really want to see, good for him for winning. This tells us that blue-white, has longevity over the course of 3 games in a match. But with respect to Terminus specifically, I don't know.
I don't think we saw enough to say it's good or bad.
Exactly.
You think it's bad, but we're not sure yet.
Right. Yeah. I want to see it against decks where it's
actually a good card.
Yeah, like where there's like a Pyromancer and a Delver and 3 tokens attacking into you, and do you find it at the time you need it, and can you cast it? Also at the right time.
But it is a lot of ifs.
Yeah. So I mean, look, the ban is fresh. Things are new again. Legacy is a slow format when it comes to just optimizing and tuning and developing, and who knows, like Miracles was so dominant for like the past few years that there could be sleeper decks that we just haven't even heard of yet waiting to come out from under the covers.
Death Shadow.
Dude, you guys should have seen when you guys watch Bob play this Death Shadow deck next week. No, next
2
week.
weeks.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Like yesterday, like he was an actual literal.
I was screaming like
5 and a green, right? Hooting Mandrills. Or is it 4 and a green? Yeah, it's 5 and a green. Yeah, 5 and a green for Hooting Mandrills. It was great. And like watching him play some of these matches, it was just like.
Grimag Angler, I don't play Hooting Mandrills.
No, you were the Hooting Mandrills.
Oh, I was the Hooting Mandrills?
So you were just like this.
I was definitely the Hooting Mandrills. I was hooting. I was like, Autorog, I found a new deck. It's good now. I can play Death Shadow.
Yeah.
I've been playing it in Modern, and I like the deck a lot. And I think Miracles was the one huge reason why you couldn't really play it in Legacy. Maybe it's still a reason you can't play in Legacy, but I think it's better now.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, in your testing, did you play against Swords to Plowshares?
Not yet.
Okay.
We'll see.
But also, to be fair, I think given that, the premier blue-white control deck is now no longer a thing. People are going to be shifting away from Swords to Plowshares and probably realigning themselves back again with Lightning Bolt and Fatal Push. Fatal Push is just one hell of a card, and I'm so glad they printed it. But yeah, so.
And you're playing next week.
Yeah, I will be playing next week with some abomination of cards that I put together. I don't know. It's been pretty stressful. Nothing.
Dude, Caleb went to the top of the group with miracles.
True.
So if you don't get to the top of the group and you're
wow, am I getting kicked out of the apartment?
I don't know if you can be a miracles master anymore. That's all I'm saying.
Nice. It's pretty cool though that I'm chromed out though. Don't you think? Like half my shirt's not showing.
You did that last week. Whoa, that's kind of cool. All right, I think we can wrap up now. Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in, and tune in again next week.
Yeah, for sure. All right, and lastly, just one last thing I want to say. Thank you to our sponsors. We've got Card Hoarder. We've got Matt Pavlik. Sweet. Yep. And then, God, I always forget the last one.
It's like the cool...
Cardimajigs.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Cardimajigs.
Cool.
Yeah. So... Thank you guys so much for all of your support. We could not do this without you, and the viewers wouldn't be able to enjoy all this great content either. So that's great. All right, so I guess we're tuning out, and we'll see you again next Thursday, 5 p.m. EST, where I will be playing alongside, I believe, Michael Pilgard, Romario, and Patrick Dickman. Sweet, good stuff.
Michael Pilgard, is that his?
Or Michael Bondi. I don't know how to say that. Is it Bond or Bondi?
I mean,
Julian always says Bondi.
It's Bondi, but
Bondi. Okay.
How can you get Pilgard of Bondi? We gotta teach him how to read. I'll work on it this week. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye, guys.